Hello and welcome again to RC Model Reviews and the Hubsan SpyHawk. And you've seen the other promotional videos, some of which claim to be reviews, but now you're going to get the inside oil, the truth, the facts about this rather nice looking little plane. Is it any good? And a lot of people have sent me questions and so forth, so I'll try and address those as I go through the review. Now, last time I showed you what's in the box a little, gave you a glimpse of what's in the box. But now we're going to put the damn thing together and see how easy that is, because it comes with a booklet of instructions. And I see the guys on flight test were quite enamoured of these instructions. I'm not quite so enamoured, I'm afraid, because there's a bit of Chinglish in here, and also some stuff that seems totally irrelevant. For example, let me read from this page. Forward and backward movement of the stick makes the helicopter ascend and descend respectively. Have I missed something here? Is there a helicopter in here that I didn't see? No, obviously what's happened here is that the Hubsan people have just taken the manual from one of their helicopters and briefly tweaked it, added different photos so that you can use it with their SpyHawk. I mean, a lot of companies do that, but not much proofing has gone on in this manual, so it may be a bit hard to follow in places. I mean, I sort of had a look through and I was, kind of scratching my head in places. See if I can find another one for you, because they're quite plentiful. Let's have a look at the intro to the manual. What does it say? The aeroplane already pre-assembled almost 90% in factory and little, with a capital L, to do before flight. There you go. I think you can roughly work out what that means, but suffice to say the instructions, because of the pictures, are not too hard to follow, even though it has some rather interesting turns of phrase, such as fixing the servo angle with plastic panel. What does that mean? Who knows? But enough of that. There are instructions, and you will find your way through how to use the thing. It's not that hard, really. But why don't they just pay somebody? Find someone who's speaking English as the first language and get them to proof the manuals. Hey, I do that for Chinese companies. I'm happy to proof manuals for free because it helps people like you who might be wanting to use the product without having to wade through gobs and gobs of stuff that makes little sense. Now, for assembly, comes with glue. Who'd have thought? But one thing I found quite amazingly paradoxical is this is the glue that you get with an AXN floater. You only need about half that tube, not even that, to put an AXN Cloudsfly floater together. And the Cloudsfly is quite a bit bigger than this. Here is the glue that comes with the Hawk Spy. Look at the size of it. I mean, how much do you need? Well, you don't need. You can have a lot of glue left after you put your Hawk Spy together, I suspect, because that tube is a lot bigger than the one for the AXN. So those are just a few things I've noticed straight out of the box. Now, I'll take the transmitter out first of all before we get on to the build, because another thing that a lot of people will probably want to know, well, some will want to know, is this transmitter thing here, as you've all seen. There's the transmitter thing. It's got a couple of aerials, and flight tests say one of those is a dummy. I'll check that out for you. A couple of aerials, and this one is mode 2. Now, I know everyone else in the world flies mode 2, and look at that. It's sort of, the throttle is spring loaded to go back to nothing. How does that work? Check that later. But anyway, mode 2, throttle on the left, elevator on the right. I fly the other way around. Fortunately, according to the instructions, it is possible to change from mode 2 to mode 1. So I'll be doing that. And I'm sure all the mode 1 flyers out there who are thinking of buying one of these will be pleased to hear it, because even though they're easy to fly, it's just not comfortable to fly in a mode you're not familiar with. So let's get on and see what's involved in putting this little baby together now. So here's what you get here, all the bits and pieces. As you would expect, there are two wing halves. These are, it's EPO, you'll be pleased to know, EPO. So they should be quite durable. I can see that inserted into here there is a spar, but it's quite close to the bottom of the foam, but mind you, and the wing is quite flexy, so don't want to go pulling too many G's on that baby. You get a horizontal stabilizer. It's already got the, I don't know, this has got the horns attached, so I assume that they come like that. Has a vertical stabilizer, as you would expect. Comes with this tiny little battery. So there you go, little 450 milliamp hour battery. It's not puffed yet. So, and this really, really wimpy looking canopy, which is like thin as, but who knows. And then you've got the fuselage, which has got all the nice gizmos inside. See in there, you can see all the electronics stuffed up the back, and that's one issue with these little planes. I mean, this is a great looking little plane so far. We haven't tested it properly, but it's a great looking little plane. The concept is really good. You just buy the box, take it out, fly it, do FPV. No wires, no cables, no messing around with antennas. It's all in there. Of course, what you've got to weigh up against that is the fact that it is just a one-time use. If you right this plane, or if you smack it into the ground real hard, you're probably not going to be able to fix it. And the stuff that's in there is probably not going to be any good to you in anything else. So I've seen prices bandied around $300 to $400 for these things. You've got to decide, are you prepared to spend $400 on a model that, if you crash it, there may be nothing worth salvaging? Now, I know people do that with the Park Zones. That you can buy, what is a Park Zone Trojan worth? Plug and play these days with ready to fly with a transmitter. That's probably going to cost you a bundle as well. But at least for the Park Zones, you can buy the spare bits. So I've got to find out whether you can buy the spare bits for these. If you can, it makes a much better value proposition. Now, the other thing I've noticed immediately before I even put this thing together is, see that camera? Now, it's in the crumple zone. It's in the impact zone, in fact, right underneath here. If you're going to dive this thing into the ground, as you will because it's being promoted as a machine for beginners and perhaps even learning to fly, when it comes in like this on a hard surface, I don't hold out much hope for that camera. The lens might get scratched, the camera will be displaced, might even get shattered and broken. So, in that respect, I really wish they'd put the camera up here, out of the way, so that those hard landings on tarmac or bitumen are not going to ruin it. Now, I won't be landing on my runway, I'll land on the grass. So it means you might have to clean the lens occasionally when you're landing on grass with mud and so forth. But I still would have liked to have seen it up here because it would make for a more durable model. But okay, maybe Hubsan will consider that if a lot of people complain that they've busted their cameras just doing a normal rough landing. Because if you look at the profile, it actually hangs down below the rest of the fuselage. So it's going to be a point of first contact on a lot of landings. Perhaps not such a good thing, but hey, let's see how it happens, see how it works out in reality. Now, deep inside there, I can see an array of little different circuit boards all squished in the back. Some are straight, some are not. Don't know what difference that's going to make. And up the front, of course, there is the little SD camera, or camera with an SD card. It's like one of those little keychain cameras, I suspect. And a little SD card there that you have in it to record. And one of the things I'm going to do with the flight testing is I'm going to say, well, hello, my chair's just decided to sink into the ground. With the flight testing, everyone shows you the camera footage that comes back from this SD card, but that's nice, but it's not important. I want to see what's on that screen. I want to see how clear the video is on the screen and how it resists breaking up when you're flying around. It's no good if it's all patchy and flashy. So I'll give you some footage in a minute, which is going to show you just what you see on that screen, which is all what you all want to know, isn't it? So okay, let's get started on this thing. Really simple build. The wing halves glue in, the tail glues on, the linkages connect up, and you're done. So I'm not going to bore you with that unless I find something really odd that you should know about. Well, here we are, my Hawk Spy's all finished. I've put it together, and I said I'd tell you of anything that happened in the build which was unusual. I counted a couple of problems. First of all, the tail, where the horizontal stabilizer goes on. If you see here, the mouldings don't line up very well. In fact, there's a really big angle on that tail. In order to get the tail to fit so it wasn't going to be at 30 degrees to the wings, I had to sand a bit of that back, taking care to preserve the angle of incidence, of course. And also found that one of the clevises was broken straight out of the box. So you can see it here, and I've had to actually fit a bit of heat shrink over that. But that's all fixed up. Bit of a shame that it was, I had to do the remedial work, but this may be a pre-production machine. Maybe the ones they ship to customers will be a whole lot better in that regard. Not much else to say, really. The model itself, it doesn't look that polished, if you ask me. The camera on the front's on the piss a bit, it's a couple of degrees out. The instructions didn't line up totally with the build, because things like that, it told me I had to fit these control horns to the control surfaces, but they were already fitted. And in fact, the linkages for the ailerons were already hooked up. Well, one of them was, the other one was broken. It may have got broken in transport, because this has taken a few dings and knocks, this model, by the look of it. Maybe, you know, never underestimate the power of the postal company when it comes to wrecking your goods, no matter how well they're packed. So probably the ones that you buy from your local dealer or whatever will be in better nick than this one, which is looking decidedly second-hand before it's even got in the air. So that's it, not too much to grizzle about for what hopefully was a pre-production model. And we're really almost ready to get it in the air. I'd have flown it a little bit before this, but unfortunately the batteries in the transmitter went flat. As I said, this is a real beast. It sucks so much power. It's got to run an LCD backlight. It's got to run the hungry little 5.8 gigahertz receiver module, and it's got to run a 2.4 gig transmitter. So it really does suck. And these Panasonic heavy-duty batteries, they didn't last 15, 20 minutes, and it was starting to beep. It's got a really insipid beep, I have to say. They could certainly increase the sound of that, the volume of that beep, because when I heard it beeping, I didn't know what it was. I was looking around, what's that noise? And if there'd been somebody, I don't know, somebody whistling in the corner, I would never have heard the beep over there. It's too quiet, it needs to be louder. And also when it beeped, it didn't actually say low battery or anything. There was no kind of warning apart from the noise. And if you didn't know what the beep was, which I didn't, you could have kept on flying, which I well, I haven't yet, but if you were flying, you could have kept on going. I just kept on going after the beep, and this is what happened to the video picture. See, it's flashing off and on. Now the controls are still working at this stage, but you've got no video. As soon as the backlight lights up on the LCD, it sucks the battery voltage down, which causes the whole thing to shut down, which means the battery voltage comes back up again, which means the backlight comes on. So it sort of does that pulsing, flashing screen thing. Now that's not very good. They can improve on that. And the manual gives no indication as to what that beeping's about. So complete novices and reviewers perhaps can get caught out by that. So something worth Hubsan considering is making some updates to that manual. In fact, I'll have more to say about the manual in my summary of this model once we've given it a fly. But we are all ready to fly. All ready to fly, excuse me. It's cold and it's very early in the morning now. And I haven't really woken up. Not enough. Too much blood in the caffeine stream, that's the trouble. But as you can see, I've put trany-cam mount on the Hubsan transmitter. See that? So what I will do, because I know you want to know this, we've all seen the videos of the video that comes back from the little onboard camera. It's like a keychain camera, really nice, HD. Notice the color balance isn't that good, it keeps changing, like my key cam. But the thing people want to know is, what does the screen look like when you're flying? Is it bright enough? Is the contrast good enough? Does this camera work well enough for FPV? And how well does the RF link work from the plane to the ground? Do you lose it? Does it? And when you lose the video momentarily, do you get a blue screen or do you get snow? What's the story? So in that regard, we're going to put it to the test, and I'm going to be the first reviewer that gives you trany-cam on the SpyHawk so you can see what the pilot would see when you're flying this little model. So that's it. That's the build. That's my observations on the build. I guess there's nothing left now but to go out and fly the damn thing.